Okay. All right, everybody. Welcome. If you missed the agenda there, that we've got 3 sessions today. The first of which is mindset, a mindset of gold with me, Stephanie Murray. If you don't know me, I am a diamond ambassador with Plexus Worldwide. I've been around since 2014, so like 8-ish years. And yeah, I don't want to get too far into my business story, but know that it was fast and furious in the beginning. And I went emerald in like 11 months, took another year to go sapphire, and then took several more years to go diamond. Janelle and I went diamond on the same day in 2021. We also went emerald on the same day way back in 2015. So it's been a wild ride, but I can tell you that every time my business has grown, it's been because I was working on my mindset. So I got chosen for this because this is one of my passions, one of my favorite topics. So be honest here, who maybe was already rolling their eyes and looking at the clock when they saw that the topic of this session was mindset. Don't be shy. Don't be embarrassed. It's okay. I see you. Maybe you saw that on the agenda and thought, cool, let's get that over with so we can get to the actual training so I can actually go gold. If something like that is where your thoughts went, I want you just to notice that. And I want you to know that between 3 extremely driven, ultra achiever, do not waste my time, diamond ambassadors, Janelle, Melissa, myself, we all agreed that mindset is absolutely essential for this training and that it's the foundation for all of the work that we do. Hence why we put this session first. Mindset bleeds into every area of our lives and comes center stage when we start doing things that are outside of our comfort zones. And there are plenty of opportunities to step out of your comfort zone around here. So later today, Janelle and Melissa are going to be training you on presenting the business and the nitty-gritty of getting to gold and helping others get to gold. Those are focused on the skill set you need to get to gold and beyond. In this session, I'm talking about mindset. Everything we do in Plexus comes down to either mindset or skill set. I don't know if you saw, but in the leadership community Facebook group, Janelle asked a question, a very simple question. Why don't you share the business opportunity? And she was expecting a lot of answers in the realm of lacking in skill. I don't know how, I don't know what to say, etc. But what she got, well, that was gold for me as I prepped for this session because most of the answers were mindset. So we're going to take a look at some of your answers toward the second half of this session. But before we do, I'm going to introduce you to a process that you can walk through on your own to clarify what is actually happening in your brain and how that is showing up in your life. When we're then we're going to talk about how to make actual real life changes to your mindset that actually stick and actually produce the results that you desire. Now, I have good news and bad news for you. And whether it's good or bad news is up to you. So here is the news. You have created everything in your life. Every result in every area of your life is because you created it. Your marriage, your family, your relationships, your career, your Plexus business. What you are experiencing in each of those areas is entirely your creation. So how do you feel about that? How do you feel? If you're happy with the results you have, you might feel joy and excitement about that fact. If you're not content or unhappy about what you have, you might feel some pain, shame, or guilt when you hear that it's because you created it that way. Regardless of how you feel about it, the fact is now, you know you are creating all of the results in your life. As Navy SEAL Jocko Willink says in his book, Extreme Leadership, leaders must own everything in their world. And that might seem a bit daunting, but I'm not just going to leave you here to figure all of that out on your own. Okay, I'm going to spend this session teaching you how to consciously choose your results, starting with your thoughts. Is that okay with you guys? Tell me in the comments. Do I have your permission to show you something that might be new to you? Let's hear it. You guys ready? As leaders, are we all committed to being open to learning and applying what I'm going to show you today? All right, cool. I'm seeing yeses. Yes, absolutely. Let's go. Now, when you master this, not only will you be able to change your own life, but you will also be able to teach others how to do the same thing. And considering that you can't get to gold and beyond all alone, learning this skill now is going to be invaluable to you along your Plexus journey. So let's get started. I'd like to introduce you to something called the self-coaching model, AKA the model. You might hear me call it the model. This was developed by Brooke Castillo, and while she was the person to put it together, it's all based on universal truths. So you might have heard some of this before or just know it to be true, because this is literally just the way that the world works and your brain works. So let's run through the CTFAR model quickly, and then we'll take some time to break down each of these sections a little further. So circumstances, these are facts. You have a thought about those facts. That thought is always going to create a feeling. The feeling is always going to create an action, an inaction, or a reaction, and that action will create a result. And because your brain is constantly seeking to confirm its own thoughts or beliefs, the results provide evidence to prove that your thought was correct. So you guys got all that already, right? You're done. We can session over. No, let's take a closer look at each of the lines of the model. So circumstances. Circumstances are pure fact. They are neutral until we have a thought about them. Circumstances are something that we can all agree on, that door is white, the computer is on, that person said this happened in my past. The circumstances or facts can be won in a court of law. When you start adding this horrible thing happened in my past, this wonderful thing happened yesterday, anytime that you start adding clarifiers or descriptives, opinions or judgments, then you've moved into the thought line. So when we fill out the CTFAR model worksheet, only facts belong in the circumstance line. The next line in the model is thoughts. So understanding the difference between circumstances and thoughts is one of the most important things that you need to learn today. And you're going to have to continue practice separating circumstances and your thoughts as you go off after this training and start using the model on your own. As you go about living your life or even thinking about things that happened in your past, remember that nothing that happens is painful. Nothing that happens is wonderful until you have a thought about it. A thought is simply the story or meaning that I make up about a circumstance. The circumstance has no meaning until I think a thought about it. For example, tell me if something like this has ever happened to anyone else. I'm sure I can't be alone. The other night, my husband Nate and I were out on a date at our favorite sushi restaurant. We're sitting at the table and he pulls out his phone and starts scrolling. That is a circumstance, pure fact. So can you guys guess what my thought was? What do you think? What a jerk. He doesn't want to have a conversation with me. That was my first thought. He doesn't want to have a conversation with me. And truly underneath that thought, what I'm really thinking is he doesn't actually love me, clearly, right? Now let me let you in on a little secret weapon that I have. You'll often hear me say, what I make up about that is. And if you start using that phrase, it will help put your thoughts into perspective. So instead of spinning in my head about how he doesn't want to talk to me, I said, Nate, or I said to Nate, what I'm making up right now is you don't want to talk to me. That reminds my brain that there are circumstances and then there are my thoughts. My thoughts are the story or meaning that I make up about the circumstance. So guess what Nate said? Oh, I'm so sorry. I was looking up the note in my phone where I wrote down last time what roles you loved. Oh, like crisis averted. He actually loves me. And it was just my thoughts that were getting in the way. So adopting the habit of saying what I make up about that is, that I promise that will save you a lot of drama in your life. So the next line in the model is feelings. My feelings are generated by my thoughts. So when you choose a thought to have about something, that's when you're going to determine how you feel. When it comes to filling out the lines on the model, you'll see there are one-word emotions that you can circle. You can circle one or two. The reason this is simplified to the degree that it is to help keep you focused on the actual emotion. So often we'll ask someone how they're feeling and they'll give us their thoughts. They'll start to explain or justify. Instead, we want to keep the feeling line to one word. When I had the thought that Nate didn't want to talk to me at dinner, I felt pain. Had someone asked me how I was feeling in that moment, I probably would have started explaining that Nate was ignoring me on our date night. And maybe I would have said that I was angry. But anger is typically an emotion, a surface level emotion. There's almost always something underneath anger that we're trying to protect ourselves from. Like, write that down. If ever you want to go circle anger, it's note to self, there's probably something else underneath it. So in that moment in the sushi restaurant, I felt some anger bubbling up, but underneath it, I actually felt pain and loneliness. So right now I want to pause our discussion on the model and I want to dive a little bit deeper into feelings and emotions. One of my favorite topics, y'all. So your emotions drive everything, but much like our thoughts, we don't always give our emotions much attention. Now I've included this chart in your handouts and I hope that you actually printed it out. And if you haven't, that you print it out later today. I want you to put this on your fridge or on your mirror. I want you to reference back to it because it's going to help you bring clarity to the model. When I'm filling out the model, I'm referencing back to this chart and going, what am I feeling? Oh, I feel embarrassed. Okay, that's actually shame. So many of us grew up in families that really did not teach us these basic emotions, or maybe we grew up in families where we weren't allowed to express emotion, or we learned some emotions were scary or not okay. So here, right now, this is your permission to feel all of these feelings. And honestly, guys, it's my sincere hope that even if you never apply this to your business, that you'll take this information and hand it down to a child in your life, because this right here is legacy work. I want you to notice that on this chart, none of the emotions are labeled bad or good. And that is because none of these are positive or negative. It's just our thoughts that label them one way or the other. Instead, I want you to embrace the fact that all of your emotions are useful. I'm going to say that again for the people in the back. All of your emotions are useful. The second column on this chart outlines the gifts of each emotion. So take anger, for example. Anger is probably most often considered a negative emotion. But if you look at the second column, the gifts of anger are assertiveness, strength, and energy. The mom who notices bruises on her child is going to have a lot of energy and assertiveness when she confronts that situation. And that's not a bad thing, right? Can we all agree? So I want you to remember that all of these emotions serve one purpose in our brains, one, and that is to keep us alive on the most basic, primitive level. And that is why a lot of times our emotions don't make logical sense.
That's me, sorry.
Our emotions don't always make logical sense to us when we consider the circumstances that preceded the emotion. So keep in mind that when you're feeling and identifying your emotions, especially emotions that come up when you're sharing plexus, your brain doesn't care about facts. It cares about whether you're safe from predators like a saber-toothed tiger and whether you're connected to a group of people that will ensure your survival. It always goes back to the most primitive level. So you get stuck when you fight your feelings instead of validating, being curious about them, and using their gifts. As humans, we are comfort-seeking creatures. Most of our automatic behavior is done to avoid pain and seek out pleasure. And some of the emotions we experience are not necessarily comfortable. Even emotions that one person might label as good, those can feel foreign and therefore uncomfortable if we haven't had practice allowing ourselves to feel the feeling before. But here's the thing. Most of the time, when we find ourselves stuck in a loop or stuck getting the same results over and over again, even if we say we don't like those results, it's because we're resisting feeling the emotion that is being generated by our thoughts. Okay, we get stuck when we fight our feelings. So when we get to the feelings line on the model, I want you to be super aware. Notice when you want to skip past your feelings or talk about them instead of, or explain them instead of feeling them. Practice holding back your own judgment as to whether you should be feeling something that you're feeling. And when you find yourself saying, I don't know why I'm feeling this, or, oh, this is so bad, or I'm such a jerk for feeling this when this happened. Instead, this is your opportunity to shift into curiosity, to be curious about your feelings as they come up and just notice them. One of the most wonderful things about working through the CTFAR model is that you allow yourself time and perspective to observe and then validate your emotions. Once you've identified an emotion, then you get to acknowledge to yourself, of course I feel that way, right? I thought this thought, and of course I feel this way when I'm thinking this thought. So now, here's some really great news. I don't know about you, but I grew up in a family where emotions were very rarely expressed. And when they were expressed, emotions were explosive. So naturally, I grew into an adult who was terrified to feel a feeling, especially the uncomfortable ones. And then I learned some really incredible news. Do you guys want to hear this news? You ready for it? An emotion only lasts for 90 seconds. That's it, 90 seconds in your body. It comes up like a wave, hence the wave picture here, you guys. Comes up like a wave, it crests, right at the peak, and then it dissipates. 90 seconds. And you can do anything for 90 seconds. I often hear, and I've often even thought myself, that if I focus on this negative emotion, that it's just going to get bigger or get worse. And really, as an achiever, one of my deepest fears is that if I allow myself to feel any feeling, I'll be consumed by it and I won't be able to work or focus. So let's unpack that. For one, that's not true. Allowing the emotion to come up and riding the wave all the way through actually allows the emotion to dissipate. Now, it might come back in waves, but it's not going to last forever. Allowing it to come up releases your system from using all of this energy, trying to keep it stuffed down and keep it from coming up. And two, you can actually experience an emotion and still be productive. I don't know who needed to hear that. I needed to hear that. My achiever needed to hear that I can actually experience an emotion and still be productive. So take courage, for example. Sharing plexus takes courage because you're putting yourself out there in a vulnerable way. Vulnerability means that you could get hurt. So naturally, you're going to feel fear because your brain is trying to keep you safe. It doesn't want you getting ostracized from your group of hunters and gatherers, or you will die. But courage doesn't exist without fear. So it's not the absence of fear, but feeling that fear and taking action anyway. So if I decide I'm going to reach out to 3 people to set up meetings to share the business opportunity with them, and then I feel the beginning of the fear wave start to come up, I have 2 options. I can avoid it or I can allow it. My brain, it's naturally inclined to avoid the fear, to avoid the pain. So the path of least resistance is to avoid setting up those meetings. I don't want to feel the full wave of fear, so I stop short of actually doing the tasks. I find excuses and reasons and other things to focus on because I don't want to feel the fear. If instead I acknowledge that I'm feeling fear and I allow it to come to the surface and then ride that wave all the way through, the fear will subside. I can set up those meetings at any point on the wave of fear and prove to my brain that I did not die. Okay, that's enough about emotions. We'll get back to it, the feelings, when we get to the feelings line in the model. So we're going to hop back into the CTFAR model. So we've hit circumstances, thoughts, and feelings. And now we're on to the next line of the model, which is actions. So all of your feelings will drive certain actions, inactions, or reactions. So think about the difference of when you're feeling caring, what you might do, versus when you're feeling angry, what you might do. Those actions are going to be very different based on what you're feeling. So going back to the example with Nate at the sushi restaurant, I thought, he doesn't want to talk to me. So I felt pain. When I'm feeling pain, I tend to lash out with sarcasm or criticism, or I give short answers, and maybe I reach for my phone to distract myself from feeling that pain. Whatever they are, your actions will always determine your results. Okay, so we feel a feeling, we take an action, inaction, or reaction, and then it's going to determine our results. So that's the last line of the model. And this is, kind of self-explanatory, but what you do is going to create a certain result. Now, remember that our brains are constantly seeking evidence to prove that our thoughts or beliefs are correct. So our results ultimately confirm our original thought. Again, at sushi, if my actions are that I get snippy with Nate or I grab my phone too, the result is Nate doesn't want to talk to me. Aha! I proved myself right. I did. And that's it. That's that. I just created a result in my life. And you do this too. You do this every single day in every area of your life without even thinking about it. Hashtag pun intended. You're not thinking about it, but you're thinking thoughts. Now, here's the rub, guys. Most of the time, we notice a result in our life and we decide that we want to change it. So what's our natural response? What do? We look at our actions and we say, I'm going to change what I'm doing here so that I get a different result. But the problem is we don't go all the way back up the model to our thoughts, which are the first domino that sets off the chain reaction, which brought us to the result in the first place. So now we're going to practice taking the model, applying it to our current life, and then practice choosing a new thought to create new results. So grab your worksheets and a pen. And I want you to know this is not a one and done kind of thing. We are not only doing this today on this session. You are going to have to practice. You're going to need to do this every single day. So print several extra copies of this and commit to working through the model each day on your own. And side note, you can also do this on the, scrap of paper, CTFAR, just write it down. You don't need the worksheet, but we're going to do this, to help us get it in our brains. So as we begin to fill in the sheet, I want you to know that we can start anywhere on the model and then figure out the rest. You don't have to start with circumstance and go in order. Sometimes we notice a result in our life first, so we can start there and then work backward. What actions are leading to that and what feelings and so on. Sometimes we notice a feeling first, and then we can work around the model and say, what thought am I having that leads to this feeling and so on. Okay, so keep that in mind because I'm gonna present this to you in order for the most part, but I want you to know that I didn't get to the whole thing being filled out in chronological order. Okay. So earlier I mentioned that Facebook post, right? The post about why you're not sharing the business with people and all the mindset answers that really, guys, that had me drooling. I was ready to do a group coaching session on the spot. So welcome to your group coaching session. I compiled the most common answers all here, and we're going to look at each of them together and plug them into the CTFAR model. I did get your responses somewhat out of context. So I've created circumstances that I know could potentially trigger these thoughts. The circumstance that triggers the thought for you might be totally different than what I've written down, but know that the circumstance actually does not matter. The circumstance could be anything. We are going to be examining the thoughts, feelings, actions, and results that follow. So let's start with the first comment, and one of the most common that I saw. I don't feel successful, so it's hard for me to confidently talk about the business. So let's break this down in the CTFAR model. I decided the circumstance that might lead to this thought that I am not successful is I'm not an Emerald ambassador. Remember that the circumstance line has to be fact. So the circumstance is not that I'm not successful, because that can't be won in a court of law. That is not black and white. We cannot all agree on that. The circumstance is I'm not an Emerald ambassador. The thought I have is I am not successful. And remember how I talked about your first thought is probably not the root of the issue. I dug a little deeper into I am not successful. And I asked myself, what is that? What am I making up that to mean about myself? Right? How am I connecting that to me? If I am not successful, I'm a failure. About that, I feel pain. If you need to hop back to that emotion sheet, I do it about 7 million times when I'm filling this out. Like, do I feel pain? Yes. Pain is this, this, and this. Okay, yes, I feel pain. The action I take is I avoid working plexus. If I'm a failure and I feel pain, I'm going to avoid that. I don't follow up. I speak with insecurity because I'm clearly a failure. I seek out others who are maybe in the same boat, who don't feel successful, and I commiserate with them. I'm having lots of negative conversations. And the result in all of that action, I don't grow an Emerald team. That result sure did confirm the thought that I am not successful and I'm a failure, right? The result always confirms your thought or belief. So that's what's happening right now. When I think I am not successful, so it's hard for me to talk about the business. Now, are you guys ready to create a new experience? We're going to move to the bottom half of the sheet. Now, when I'm looking at the bottom half, my first question here is, what does success actually feel like? What emotion? That's where I started, was with the emotion, and we can start there and rebuild the model in our favor. You could also start with, what new result do I want, and work kind of backwards from there. You're not typically going to immediately have your new thought be the first thing that you think of. So, but I'm going to go through it that way. So my new thought is, I am becoming successful. Success is a process of learning and growing. So when I think that thought, I feel joy. And when I feel joy, I seek out feedback and apply what I learn. I find solutions to problems. I book business meetings and I host events so I can get better. And the results of all of that action is that I inspire others to join me and I grow an Emerald team. That result confirms that I am becoming, and success is a process of learning and growing. So before we move on to the next example, I do want to share some perspective on success and what this might mean to you, because this came up so often in that thread. And I know that a lot of you have this thought or some feelings and thoughts around success. So success can be super elusive because it could be measured by what others think of you, and you have no control over that. You could also be using the pursuit of success to you might keep moving that target as a distraction from other areas in your life where you might feel pain or fear. I don't know about you, but I've heard forever that you have to have your own definition of success. But try as I might, because I'm an achiever, I have never been able to nail that down, my own definition of success. And why? Because as a super achiever Enneagram 3, long ago, I subconsciously attached my sense of worth to success. So let that sink in, and let this be your giant red flag. Listen up. Do not live another day on this earth without exploring the possibility that you might be chasing an elusive idea of success as a way to validate your own worth. And if that's maybe true for you, the truth is, listen up, hear me now, turn the volume up and get ready. The truth is, you are valuable. Period. End of sentence. Not for the things that you accomplish in any given day, not for the meals that you cook, not for the grades that your kids get, or how great the raffle basket that you put together for PTA was. You are valuable because you are a human being. Think about this. How many parents are on here? Raise your hand. I can see some of you. And if you're not a parent, you know a child that you love. Think back to the day that your child was born. Were they valuable? Were they valuable? They were the most precious, valuable, loved little creatures on the face of this planet. And they didn't do a single thing to be valuable. Not a single thing. In fact, they're pooping and peeing and crying. Not a single thing, and they are the most valuable thing on the face of this planet. Here's the truth. You are that little baby. You are just as precious. You are. Nothing has changed at your core. I want you to let that sink in. I want you to write it down. I am valuable. Because the truth is, you could be Celeste Gwen level successful, but you will never feel successful until you believe that you are valuable. Okay, I'm going to get off my soapbox on that. And we're going to move on to the next example. The next comment that I saw often was, I'm not credible because my paycheck isn't big enough. So to start at the top of the CTFAR model, I actually had to Google the definition of credible because the thought on the thought line was, I'm not credible. But I'm like, what does that actually mean? What does credible mean? Credible is the quality of being trusted and believed in. Aha. Now I can see. Can you guys see a little more clearly what I'm actually reacting to? My actual thought underneath, I am not credible, is that I'm not trustworthy or people don't believe me. So when I think that thought, and sorry, I skipped over the circumstance, but the circumstance could be anything. The circumstance in this case, it relates to my paycheck. My paycheck in January was $300 because my paycheck isn't big enough. Is that a circumstance, friends? You guys are getting this, right? Is my paycheck isn't big enough. Is that a circumstance? Is it pure fact? Could it be won in a court of law? Absolutely not. The fact is my paycheck was $300 in January. My thought about that is I'm not credible, and I'm really thinking I'm not trustworthy and people don't believe me. When I think those thoughts, I feel anger, and underneath that anger is shame. Remember, if I feel anger, what else am I feeling? Because I'm protecting myself. I feel anger and shame. When I feel those feelings, my actions are, I steamroll people. I'm trying to convince them to believe in me. Maybe because I'm feeling shame, I hide my business and I avoid talking about it. Or maybe I act in a way that seems untrustworthy or shady. The result of all of that action is people avoid me, people don't believe me, and they question my motives. Maybe I sign people who are ashamed of their Plexus purchase and they don't want to share. And that result goes back to confirm that I am not credible, I'm not trustworthy, and people don't believe me. I've created this reality by thinking these thoughts. Y'all are tracking, right? Now, as we move into the bottom half where we're choosing a new experience, I want to point out that the new thought is usually one of the last things I come up with. And I'm using the other lines to help me create the new thought that aligns with the results I want. You got that? Also notice that I am not simply writing the opposite of what the old thought was. And that's because it's not true enough yet to my brain. We can't just go from 0 to 60 when it comes to changing our thoughts, or we'll say it or think it, and our brain will go, liar, not true. right? We have to baby step our way from the old thought toward a new one. And that takes time and repetition of the new thought in order to get it to stick. So going to the bottom half, I'm going to go in order, but remember, I aligned this with my results I wanted. My new thought is, I'm legitimately making money. Legitimately, not illegally, not doing anything shady. I'm legitimately making money. And $300 extra a month for my family is incredible. Incredible. When I think that thought, I feel passion. I feel it right now. I'm thinking it, I'm saying it out loud. I'm like, 300 extra a month is incredible. I feel passion. And when I feel passion, I speak with enthusiasm and confidence. And I want to tell all my friends about this business. When I'm doing those things, my result is I sign several people who are interested in also making $300 a month, and they are excited to share and post. Do you see the shift? The circumstance did not change. I'm still making $300 a month. I made $300 in January. Different thought, completely different result. This is how you change your life, people. Next comment. The next one I saw a lot of was, I don't want them to think I'm just trying to make money off of them. Okay, the top half of this, the circumstance that might lead to this thought is someone asks how much it costs. It could be anything. It could be, I'm going to share the business with them or whatever. But I thought this circumstance was really interesting. Someone has responded to my post and asks, how much does it cost? I think my thought is, I don't want them to think I'm just trying to make money off of them. When I think that thought, I feel guilt. When I feel guilt, my actions are, I show them the smallest welcome pack, I give them extra coupons, or I don't talk about the business because then they'll know that I'm making money. The result is they don't sign up and I don't make money off of them, which confirms I don't want them to think I'm just trying to make money off of them. Or maybe they do sign up and then next month they cancel because they can't afford it. And they can't afford it because I didn't tell them about the business. You see how the thought you have about a circumstance then creates the result. And ultimately, I also want you to notice that this is actually about my survival as a human being. When we get down to the feelings of what's coming up, when I think this thought, it's survival. I don't want to be rejected by this person, and that causes fear. Because if I'm rejected from my group, I will literally starve to death. This is what my brain is thinking, whether you think it's silly or not. My primal brain, which is where my emotions are coming from, my primal brain thinks I'm going to be rejected. I'm going to starve to death, or I'm going to be attacked by a saber-toothed tiger because I won't have a group for protection. That's what's happening in our brain. Okay. So we're going to move into a new reality. We're going to create a new experience. The new thought I am going to choose is, instead of, I don't want them to think I'm just trying to make money off of them. Someone asks me how much it costs. I think I am honest, caring, and compassionate. I love to help people. When I think that thought, I feel joy and I feel love. When I feel those things, I share confidently. I offer open guidance as they make a decision. I calmly explain what the best deal is. And I ask questions from a truly open and curious place because I feel joy and love. And when I do those things, the result I have is I sign someone who feels supported and grateful for my guidance. And they're open with me about their goals and their hopes and their dreams. All right, one more example. Our last comment was, someone left, so I'm not a good leader. Someone left. Is that the actual circumstance? Someone left? Is that black and white? Did they leave you? Are they gone? No. The circumstance, the fact is, someone canceled their account. Right? That's the worst of the worst. Oh my gosh, they filled out the form and canceled their account. My thought about that is, I'm a bad leader. When I think that thought, I feel fear, maybe some pain, maybe some shame and guilt even, but really under that is fear, because if I I'm a bad leader. I'm not going to make any money. And if I don't make any money, I'm not going to be able to feed myself and my family, and I'm going to die. Remember, it's all primal. When I feel fear, the actions that happen is I got awkward conversation the next time I see them. My relationship probably deteriorates. The next time I go to sign somebody, I let overwhelm freeze me. I don't cast vision for any new people. I avoid doing anything that could be criticized. If I feel like a bad leader and I'm going to die, I'm not going to put myself out there to be criticized. I'm going to resent this person. And I'm probably going to start seeking validation from others that it was them and not me. I'm going to start having conversations with my upline, with my downline about what a jerk that person was. And when I'm doing all of that, my result is I don't grow any leadership skills, which proves I'm a bad leader. I don't attract new or driven leaders. I drive people away because of my negative conversations, and my team growth stops. Again, all of that to prove I'm a bad leader. Now, shifting into our new result that we want to create. If instead someone canceled their account and I think I am imperfect and that's okay, everything works out for my good. When I think that thought, I feel love. And maybe I wanted to make this point. Maybe I still feel some fear. And that's okay, because when I feel fear, I can be courageous. So if I feel love and fear, because I'm imperfect and that's okay, everything works out for my good, my actions are I continue a fulfilling relationship with that person because I still feel love. I validate my own experience and I feel my feelings, and I courageously seek feedback on how to improve. And when I'm doing those things, the result is I grow my leadership skills and my team grows. Is this not incredible? Are you guys seeing how this works? Are you getting a feel for how to fill in the model? I hope you are. I'm seeing some good comments in the chat. So, yay, now it's your turn, okay? So remember how I told you this is not something you're just going to do today and be done with. You are constantly thinking thoughts and creating results, which means you will have reasons every single day to practice the model. So as you become a master at doing this for yourself, you will find that you can help others become aware of their thinking and how it's creating their results. One of the most valuable skills that you can develop is the ability to coach your team. And this right here, the model, is how you coach your team in mindset, CTFAR. Okay. Everything we do in Plexus comes down to either a mindset or a skill set. To get to gold and beyond, to get to gold school in March, you will have to master both areas, your mindset and your skill sets. And now you are one step closer. So our time together is coming to an end, and you're going to have a 15-minute break. During your break, take a few minutes to use the restroom, grab a drink, do what you need to do, but then sit down. You have a task during this 15-minute break. Sit down with a piece of paper, maybe an empty blank sheet of here, and fill out the model, starting with this circumstance. You guys ready? I'm giving you your circumstance right now. You, spoiler alert, are going to be challenged later today to set meetings to present the business to at least 3 people this week. So that's your circumstance. I was asked to schedule 3 meetings to present the business this week. Pause for effect. You've already had a thought and now a feeling about it. Congratulations. You now have an opportunity to plug all of that into the model and choose a new thought and a new result. Got it? Thank you guys so much for being with me today. I seriously loved putting this training together for you and being with you guys today. So happy CTFARing. And it's your break. If I can get this to play, I will. I'm going to try it. Nope. Okay. 15 minutes is 55, 05, 10. 10 after the hour. You're so welcome. I gotta stop recording. How do I do this? There we go.